Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, creator of the DEB Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I'm also the author of Your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. I believe very strongly you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So every week I bring together some of my people to dive into a conversation. And this week we're talking about communities. So it's meta within meta within meta. And I've got a great panel today. I've got Mike Brennan, I've got Jessie-Sierra Ross, and I've got David Shriner-Cahn. And these are all people who I know bring community front and center. Well, we kind of all do, right? And I met Mike and David. They've interviewed me on their podcast. I've had Jessie-Sierra Ross on this and on Taste Buds with Deb. And I also find that the people you enjoy interacting with, you just interact with more and more. And that is really how you develop community in its simplest terms. And there's so much more to it. So if you're watching us as GoalChat Live, maybe you're watching the replay, or you might even be listening to us as the GoalChat podcast on Marketing Podcast Network. No matter how you found us, we are so glad you're here and choosing today community. And I would love for my guests to introduce themselves a little bit better, or just introduce themselves, because basically all they know right now is that you're awesome and community oriented. So I will let you go into a bit more detail. Mike, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deborah. I'm Mike Brennan, and the way I talk about what I do is I say I'm a creator and communicator who tells stories on pages and stages. Really what that means, it breaks down into the two categories of creator, graphic design background. I do a lot of digital paintings and artwork, like live event sketching. And so visual arts driven as far as creator. And then on the communicator side, I speak. I have a podcast called Creative Chats, and I talk about things that are related to creativity, fun, and kind of the crossroads of mental health. All these things come from my own experiences, which I look for the value in that, and look for the thing that can be applicable to someone, no matter what it is that they may be creating or where they are in life.
That's awesome. And I will put, if you go to the debmethod.com/blog, you'll get the recap and the replays, but I will also put in the links to when Mike interviewed me and David interviewed me, because isn't that really the point? Or at least I say, I have my friends on my podcast when I haven't talked to them in a while, because it really is the best way to catch up. And I had mentioned before we went live that I introduced you and Jessie-Sierra via email back in December, and you guys didn't actually meet until today. So I love the community, and activities like this really give us the opportunity, even if we start a conversation, to continue it if we didn't quite get there. So Jessie-Sierra, really good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Deb, for having me. It's so wonderful to meet everyone here. And yeah, so my name is Jessie-Sierra Ross. I am a former professional ballerina turned cookbook author, TV food personality, and food blogger at Straight to the Hips Baby. My community has spanned the gamut from artists and actors, dancers, musicians, now into the world of food and beverage. But it's not just food and beverage. It's not just the people coming together at my table that I'm building community with. It's also other artists and creatives. And I was the founder of the Food Blog School, which was a community of over 2,000 creatives in the food, beverage, and photography spaces, where we created connections not only within our genre, but also with those who were sort of in the supporting roles of so many of our activities. This included casting agents, book agents, authors, TV hosts, whatever you could find, what you could name, we had it. And I am a huge believer in creating connections, not only over food and drink, but also in friendships with colleagues, with mutual creatives, because we're always ready and willing to learn. And this is how we continue to grow, not only as creative spirits, or even as people who create content for other people to enjoy, but for us to enjoy, for us to learn from each other, and to really help support each other as we continue creating.
I have to add one more thing about you. You do have a tip in 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. And spoiler alert, it is about creating community. Can't find one of your own, create a new one, which is what you, and we'll talk more about this, is what you did. because you had the dance community. You're like, I need a new one. So you created one for food. So it's always fun when you meet your people and you know that they are your people. And we are definitely each other's people. So yeah, great to have you. David, welcome.
Thank you. I'm David Shriner-Cahn. I'm the founder and guide of Smashing the Plateau. We're a platform for corporate refugees who want to start, run, and grow their own business so they can do more of what they love and get paid what they're worth. And our platform includes a weekday email newsletter, a weekly podcast, and a membership community that includes both online and live events.
Awesome. And we met because actually we met and then it didn't take. And then we were reintroduced, remember? So that's the other thing about community is sometimes it does take a bit to latch on, but when people keep recrossing your paths, you really need to pay attention to those conversations, maybe even more so. And I love your topic in corporate refugeehood is something that is I really cannot scroll through anything without seeing someone who either needs to be in your community or they're figuring out what's next because they got kicked out of corporate land. So and we've got if we include mine, 4 very distinct communities. And it's really all about knowing I think in a way, knowing your niche and providing resources to them. But before we dive into more of the nitty gritty, I would love everybody's definition of what is community, because it definitely means different things to all people. David, what is your definition of community?
My definition is being in a place with like-minded people where you feel like you belong.
Ooh, that's true. Because in that belonging factor, where is that? How is that different? Because I love that you added that word.
Well, it's a self-definition. I said where you feel like you belong. So really, it's an emotional reaction. When you walk into a room and you connect with people, whether it's a virtual room or an in real life room, when you feel that connection with people and you're like, oh, I feel comfortable talking to these people. I feel I can share things. I feel I can learn things. I feel I can make an impact here. I know that if I hang around here, they will make an impact on me. And we feel like we're kindred spirits. And in some cases, you may feel like, oh, I feel like I've known these people way longer than the last few minutes.
That is always the goal, isn't it? To find those people that you're like, how could it be that we just met? Yes. Mike, what is your definition of community?
It's funny. I think it's one of those words that sometimes can be a buzzword, especially lately. And there's opportunity to really miss the depth and richness that is there in true community. And I think, just piggybacking on what David said, that sense of belonging, certainly. And also, I think there's a reciprocal quality there. Like, I think people who are there not just to take, but they're there to give and, want to be surrounded by people who are like that too. It's kind of like the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. And I think when you have a community that's like that, then everybody's pulling for each other. Everybody's rooting for each other. And there's this sense of community over competition, which is something that, especially in the creative circles that I've been in, it's not always the case, because sometimes people want to hold their cards close to the chest and think, I got to look out for me. And if I'm too, easily sharing information or opportunities or things, someone can get ahead of me. And I think that's a very closed mindset. And I think the communities that I've resonated with have been ones that have been very much more open, very much more inviting, and saying, come be a part of something bigger than yourself,
The other part of what you said is people think they're in competition and everybody is so different. I'm certain Jessie-Sierra can speak to this because I love using food blogging as an example, because there are a gazillion of, I mean, I am a food writer and podcaster among other things, but there are a gazillion things to write about food, and everybody's different, and everyone can elevate each other just through that spirit. Not to answer the question for you, Jessie-Sierra, what is your take?
It will be hard to top these two definitions already given, because I very much agree. I think that community, oftentimes we think a community is something that we are born into, but when you have like a creative community, a professional community, it's something that you opt into. You choose to be part of that group. And there is a facet, I think, of being a teacher and a student, and it's reciprocal. There's a synergy there, so that you are in this safe position, a safe space to bounce ideas, and they may be utterly ridiculous or they might be brilliant, but there are people there to help sort of form it, to chisel away the external sort of futs of it, you know, that the things you don't need. And at the same time, they're also there to commiserate. They're there to offer advice. They're offering resources. And I think it's very, very difficult, no matter what genre you're creating in or what profession you are actually working in, not to have community. So community is really an opt-in. You opt in to that group, and those who say put competition over connection, they will fade out. You will find your people. And that's really what it is. It's finding your friends, it's finding your colleagues, and really growing up together.
Growing up and up together. Wonderful. And some people, and I've been answering this question a lot lately because of the book, you know, where did you get your start in Goal World? I started by leading an in-person writer support group back when I did events when I lived in Chicago. I've lived in LA for more than 25 years, so do as much math as you want, just don't tell me. And then restarted the group here, and it's been in person and online, but it is, I remember shortly after I started it. Now, I've always been about the goals. You know, what are you working on? How can we support you? What are you working on for next time? And a couple of times people would come in and be like, we want a critique group. And this was a Barnes Noble. I'd say go over to Borders. You know, find people with the common goal, but also being into this place together. There's nothing wrong with other groups, but you need to find the ones that are right for you. And if you can't, develop your own. So before we go into finding them, I'm doing it backwards. What do you think goes into creating a community? And of course, use your own examples. Jessie-Sierra, what did it take? How did you start that build?
You know, it's fascinating because I had been creating content, food photography and blogging and TV work for many years, and I had tried to find a community. I tried to find a community that was established. That's the easiest way to do it, right? You go out there, you search on your social media profiles, and I could never quite find the right fit or the right people. And there was always this competition, the fear of missing out, and so there was never that sharing of information, sharing of resources. And then I started finding here and there other bloggers, other creators, and we became friends, and we were sharing. And it dawned on me that instead of just continuously searching for my people, I was just going to start a group, and they will find me. And it's almost selfish in a way, because I really wanted that cohort. I really wanted to have that space, because being a creative, especially on digital platforms, it's incredibly lonely. It's very isolating because you're not in an office, you're not in a studio anymore. You know, I was used to being around 30 company dancers for 12 to 14 hours a day, and suddenly I'm, you know, sitting in front of a computer and it's just me. So I built a community, and the important bit is finding the platform that people can find you on. For me at the time, it was Clubhouse, which was this audio only platform, which was brilliant. And we connected, and I started the food blog school with the intent to create connections and to become a connector. But I have to tell you, I think I probably gained more than anyone, because I found lifelong friends. These are my friends. There's a collective of 30 people that I would use to create these conversations to a wider 2,000 plus person audience to learn from each other. But those 30 people, I still talk to them weekly, and it's been 4 years. So I think that don't let the lack of community, or perhaps you haven't found the right people to connect with, stop you from actually establishing your own. Because if you can find the right people, it will either grow on its own or you'll morph into other people's groups. But the biggest thing is being open to the opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay. David, what are your thoughts on getting started?
I agree with Jessie-Sierra. There's an organic quality to this. It both happens to a certain extent on its own, and then there are things that you can do to trigger your own participation in community or your leadership in community, whether you're starting one or whether you are becoming involved and becoming a leader in a community that has already formed. So I wasn't sure whether your question was, how did you start your specific community, or how do you get involved and become more connected to community?
Let's start with the starting your own, and then we will circle back to becoming more community involved.
Got it. So starting the Smashing the Plateau community, which is the one that I spend most time with right now, it actually began not with something that I did proactively, but I led an event, an in-person event, and one of the attendees wanted to work with me. We did a session, and she said to me after the first session, "David, I'd like to work with you more, but I want to do something in a group." And everything I'd done up until that point in my business was customized. It was one-to-one. I never thought about serving more than one client at a time. So fast forward, we started a group. It was a small one, and that grew. And then there was another group, and I spoke to people that were in those groups and also following me in other ways, and kind of floated this idea of, well, should we take the same framework that we've been using successfully in a group format and make this broader so we can serve more people? And there were enough people that said yes, they were interested, so we opened it up into a community. So it's like most other things in life, there were like pivots and steps along the way,
but very organic. And starting with the question, which was, how do we do this in a group? And growing
correct.
From there.
And the other thing is, it was all about listening to the audience and what they wanted.
Yes, love that. Mike?
Yeah, in terms of creative community, this may seem counterintuitive, but I actually started with myself. And the reason I say that is because to know and understand what my values are, and understand what is it that I would look for in somebody else's community and the communities that I've been drawn towards, like to really identify those things and be clear about those things, because it gives you a filter also, I think, to know what's on target and what's not. And so things like, authenticity, I value that. I value vulnerability. And I know that I've been a part of some communities where it's been just purely information driven, and there really hasn't been a connection. And for me, that didn't really do it, because I'm like, I could find information elsewhere. I could go on the internet and find information. But if I'm going to get information in the context of relationship, there needs to be some component of vulnerability and of authenticity, of people showing up as they really are. That's what I strive to do. Like, I'm the same person no matter where I go, no matter how I show up. That's me. You don't get different versions of me. And so I want to attract other people like that. I want to model that also and encourage people to do that, because I think that's when you get past a lot of the posturing and the hiding behind information, and you can get to the heart of the matter. And, I'm very heart driven as an artist, right? As a creative person. I certainly want to be moved by things, and I want to create things that move people, and they come from my own experiences. I take that and then I I look at that and go, okay, what can I learn about myself in this? What can I learn about other people in this? And then I think, well, if I'm curious about this, or if I'm struggling with this, or if I have questions about this, certainly there are other people who have that as well. And so it's then finding and attracting those people to be a part of that community. And so that everyone can kind of be rowing together in the same direction.
I feel that know thyself is a very common theme in a lot of these conversations, because and the D in the Deb method is determine your mission. So when you know who you are, what you believe in, and where you want to go in life, and also how you help others, that really gives you an edge, no matter what you're creating, whether it is a community or content or what have you. And the whole evolution of things in being is authenticity. Talk about another buzzword that gets a bad rap all the time. But the more you that you are, the more likely you are to bring like personalities together. Before we go into the finding communities, I'd love to know what it is you do to be as you, because all three of you, four of us, have in common that we are very ourselves. So I'll ask it a different way. What do you think is your most defining characteristic, and how do you lean into that as being as authentic as possible? Ooh,
Curiosity.
don't all answer at once. Jessie-Sierra.
Curiosity. I like to call myself a forever learner. It was something that was really instilled in me as a young ballet dancer, was to never stop learning, because once you stop growing as an artist, as a person, as a community member. And I think that is something that is probably one of the top 3 tenets of my personality, and what drives me to connect others together is that curiosity. Like, how can we make this new project happen? How can I connect this person to see what would happen when they join forces, or maybe they could help advise or connect them to another person? Because I think curiosity really drives us forward to ask the right questions and to really seek out those answers. So that's my biggest facet.
Great. Mike?
Obviously, creativity is something that I'm all about, but I think that paired with vulnerability is the thing that I have found to be more of a superpower. Like, the more I'm willing to say things that maybe at first blush might make me go, I don't know if I want to say that. And I'm not talking about like bleeding on people, right? That's not at all like, unprocessed things or things you keep for therapy. But what I am saying is, like, I'm willing to share some things that maybe most people wouldn't, because they don't want to be seen in a certain light. For instance, I share all the time about my suffering from depression and how I had, that rock bottom moment in life where things just fell apart. And I was like, now what? And that's actually the catalyst that brought me back to my creativity. And so it's a huge part of my story. And I don't shy away from that. I don't try and gloss over or cover that up. Instead, I bring it out and say, let's talk about this. Because again, if I've experienced this, certainly there are others who are experiencing this. And if in talking about something, you can dispel shame and find some redemption in something and offer hope to somebody, I would much rather do that than pretend like something didn't happen or doesn't exist. And so I find the more that I can lean into my vulnerability, the more conversations that opens up, the more potential for impact that has on somebody else's life.
I love that. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing that. I am a firm believer that when you know things and you share them, it's part of the mission, right? When you go through things and you discover, ooh, this is me and this is what helped, others do need to know that. David?
Yeah, and that's also how you increase your impact. Yeah. So in my case, what I hear the most from people who know me and who have worked with me is being a careful listener. And the way I try to I try to utilize that skill is by asking thought-provoking questions that will help the person who's being asked go a little deeper. And I'm lucky that I get to do it by hosting an interview-based podcast. So I get to interview people all the time. I get to do it facilitating community sessions and events. So it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I get to see, like what Jessie, Sierra, and Mike, what you both said. I get to see how that creates some impact.
Well, I love the questions so much that I want to answer it as well. And along the lines of you all, and very similar to David, I think, is the communication piece. Again, something that I find myself repeating a lot lately. When you can talk and when you can write, when you've got those skill set, then you can do anything. And as much as I love writing, I love talking even more, and being able to facilitate these conversations and to help others share what they know to improve the lives of the bigger community at large. That is my joy. So I think we all have that in common. We're here, we've got a message, and what is the best way to spread it? Through community. So what should people look for if they're looking for community to join? Yes, it's great when they find you, but you also kind of have to be out there. So, Mike?
Yeah, it's very timely for me, actually, because I moved to Nashville in September. And so I'm in a new surrounding. And while I knew some people here ahead of time, there's certainly more opportunity to dive into different meetups that are going on, different organizations. And so there are times when as much as sometimes I'm like, I'd rather just take a break. I'd rather stay in tonight. I'd rather just kind of, hunker down. It's pushing yourself to engage, even when maybe you don't necessarily feel like it. And I've found that the variety also has helped. So sometimes there are communities that I'm looking for that are more entrepreneur driven. There are other ones that are more artist driven. Some are a mix of both. Some are different even from that are more in other interests that I have. And so I think the more that you can get out and just connect with people, the more conversations you can have, the more that you will be better off, because you'll spread a wider net and you'll figure out, if you don't know, like, okay, where do I fit in here? Or who are the people who are my people, so to speak? The only way that you find that out is by actually going out and engaging. And you have to show up to do that. And so go out, make choices that seem the best next step, and then just assess and figure out, okay, what are the places that I want to return to? Or maybe there's a new place that I just found out from the last place that I was at, because I get with people and they made suggestions or they made an introduction for somebody. So keep following the breadcrumbs, being open, being available, and having agency over yourself in this, because no one's going to come find you. No one's going to knock on your door and be like, hey, I heard you're looking for community, or would you be interested in starting a community? Like, nobody's going to do that. And so it's being out there, connect with people, and take advantage of the opportunities that are before you. Even if they don't look like what you'd want them to look like right away, there are things that are happening right around us. And so start with those. That's what I would suggest.
I'm laughing in particular because remember that original goal group I started? I was doing events for Barnes & Noble, and whenever I need to fill my calendar, I'd hang out in the cafe, and someone came up to me and said, would you start a writer support group? So it does happen, just not very often. And it was as close to knocking on your door, I think, as anything. But yes, you need to be open and out there, because and yes, there are things available online, but that is not community. It's Googling. David, what are your recommendations for finding and developing community with others?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with Mike. You need to get out there. You need to actually show up. It's interesting that people will often try out a community or join a community because of content, whether it's in person or online, but they'll stay for the relationships. And they'll stay for the relationships beyond needing the content. or beyond being interested in the content. The relationships are really key. And, you know, there's an interesting technique that you can use if you are someone who's feeling reluctant to step forward and go to something new where you don't know anyone, which is invite somebody you know to go with you. Invite a few people you know to go with you. So you have a cohort of people where you know one another. It can make it easier if you feel uncomfortable kind of stepping out there.
The buddy system or the wing person system works. Absolutely. And the other benefit to when you bring a pal is you can introduce your pal and your pal can introduce you. So it also takes a little bit of the networking pressure off.
Exactly.
Jessie-Sierra, I saw a lot of nodding from you as well. What are your recommendations for developing community?
You know, it's going to be hard to top this. I completely agree with Mike and with David. I think, you know, being open, available, seeking out opportunity is huge. I think professionally, if we're looking for community, we should identify, let's say, 5 things that we want to learn about. So you have that in mind and you start to search for that community, but also 5 things that you can give. And that way you sort of narrow down where you're going. I think it's also really important to acknowledge too that you may not have all the answers. You may not know what's going on, and you can be the quiet one at first to take in and absorb everything that's going on around you. And I think this goes professionally for community, but also personally. So as someone who used to be an introvert, no longer,
I don't understand this word, but go on.
Well, that's the thing, you know, having gone from the silent art to speaking and writing for a living, you become an extrovert. I think on a personal level, if you are very much like what Mike is going through right now, I relocated from a large city way out where I had no connections. It's finding something that you can do, meaning an activity. So I like to dance. I'm going to go find a contra dance class. I don't know anyone here, but we all have a basic sort of interest in movement. I want to go painting. I want to do pottery. I want to hear a book discussion, something that you're interested in, but there's something to do rather than just sort of staring at each other and trying to force a conversation to happen. I know when I relocated, the very first thing I did is I signed up for a Zumba class. Did I want to do Zumba? No, but it was movement and it got me in with people who were also into movement. And from there, I created a whole new family, really, out where I am now. And it's good practice. And you don't have to feel that you are sort of tied to it. If it's something that doesn't click, you leave and it's okay. You know, it's one of those things. Don't let the pressure to connect, stop you from connecting.
And I love that your example had absolutely no business benefit to them. These were all like clubs and fun activity types of things because, well, usually the people you meet, especially those kinds of events, they're not necessarily your client or audience, but everybody knows people. And as soon as you're in their tribe, they're in your tribe. Anything any of you want to add about finding community in person before I flip the question? Okay, we're good. You podcast listeners, I'm just getting smiles and nods. What about developing community online? Because that's also, it used to be, do you remember the days where you would meet people in person and then connect online and continue the conversations? And now it's almost the opposite, where you meet and connect online and then meet people in person. So how do you develop those online community connections? David?
I was going to say, it's the same principles, showing up. We have people in our community that come to every live event. And those that show up for every live event, they know one another pretty well. They have developed bonds and trust that is quite incredible. And they have not met in person.
I was going to clarify, these live events are online.
They're online. Yeah, they have not met in person.
Which is I figured the stat for my book, I'm sure it's something close to this, but of the 60 people I interviewed, maybe a quarter of them I had met in person. And these are all friends and or friends of friends who are now friends. Everybody in the book is someone I know. And that person to person is nice, but person to person online really expands your sea of people who can be in your life. So taking the same principles, but how do you find these communities? Other than we will have the links at thedebmethod.com/blog for all these people.
I think it's if you build it, they will come. I mean, if you have a chosen platform that you really adore, say you're someone who loves Facebook, LinkedIn. I know you're so active on. I personally love Instagram, and I loved Clubhouse. I love anything audio. If you are consistent with what you're giving out there, because you have to remember, it will start small. No one starts with 100 people. You start with 2. If you retain them, great. Next week, you'll have 10. They'll tell their friends. You advertise it. You talk. You do all these things. It's kind of like when you're in school, when you make buddies on the first day, first day of college. Do you know anyone freshman year? No. But you find each other, and it just kind of builds out from there. So that's my biggest thing is if you're going to build an online community, first find something, the platform you're most comfortable with, the schedule that you can handle and keep up consistently. And something that brings you joy. Because if you are not enjoying building that community, people are going to pick up on it and they won't come.
Oh, so true. When you love what you do, it shows. And when you don't love what you do, it really shows. So why not love what you do? What about finding these communities online? I mean, other than getting recommendations, is there another way to find your people? Mike?
I would immediately go towards recommendations. I think first and foremost, because I think that's the safe place, because there's trust there. I mean, other than that, things that are online, it's kind of like the front door, and it allows people to have a certain amount of anonymity until they're ready. And everybody kind of goes and stalks, and they're like, find my information, figure out, are these people trustworthy? What's happening here? Is this worth my time and investment? And then at some point, usually there's the tipping point in which they're like, okay, I'm ready to, come out of the shadows, if you will, and then be a part of things. And so I think certainly finding communities that resonate with you, that seem to be clear and have accessible information available, right? Like putting things easy for people so that they don't have to go and, ask a lot of questions ahead of time where they're like, I don't understand this. Like, this is the person who's organizing this hasn't really thought this through, or they've made it so difficult with so many hoops to jump through that I'm exhausted by the time I'm even ready to say, maybe I'll be a part of this. So I think finding things that look like they've been well thought out, that's clear, accessible, along with the recommendations, that's what I would say. That's what speaks to me usually if I'm looking for something, if I'm doing some research.
Great point. David, something to add?
I would add, is it something that is free? Is it a paid membership if you want to be part of it? Is there an expected time commitment to be part of it? Is there a desired time commitment if you want to feel like you're involved and really make connections? So those are some of the questions I would ask. I would also add the platform makes a difference. So depending upon if you're talking about an online community, what kinds of technology platforms are you comfortable with? For example, our community is housed on Circle. And the great thing about it is it was built for community engagement. One of the disadvantages is it's a separate platform that you have to log into. And for people that are not so tech savvy, and we tend to attract a crowd that I'm going to say most people are between like 40s to 60s. The technology, they're less tech savvy than some other demographics, and sometimes that's an impediment. And they're really quick to do things on email, but they're slow to log into something separate. So, wait, like, what is comfortable for you?
You want to, as Jessie-Sierra was saying, when you're looking for community, you want goals to see whether it's for an event or the community itself. What do you hope? What can you give to it? What can you hope to get out of it? But also, you want to set yourself up for success to be in a community. So find places and platforms that's second nature to you, because you'll be able to give more of yourself if you are not challenged by the technology.
Yeah.
And
can I add one other thing, Deb?
yes, please.
Which is one thing to think about even before you commit to joining something new. Ask yourself whether you'd be comfortable taking on a leadership role, because one of the things that makes a big difference in terms of both the impact you can make and also what you might, how you might benefit from being part of a community is when you step up and take on a leadership role, so that you can have a greater impact, but also you're more visible. People see you.
Oh, that's a good point. And if you can't even foresee that, what the heck are you doing in this community, right? I mean,
Right.
not to be super judgy, but as someone who jumps in with both feet and hands and everything, if I'm going to be involved, whether I'm volunteering or part of an organization or even any of those job things I've had along the way, anything I'm involved in, I want to be all involved in, because if you're not, what are you doing there?
Exactly.
So is there a community outside of your own that you all love being part of and or that you recommend? Mike, you're nodding. You get to go first.
There's a community that actually really was instrumental in me moving here to Nashville. And it's a community of creative entrepreneurs. It's called The Thing. And someone who has become a good close friend of mine leads it, Terry Weaver. And he sets it up so that, yes, there are like 2 events that happen in person, live events, and it's filled with speakers and information and all of that. But really the thing that makes the difference is the connection, the relationships. And so much so that many people who have been a part of this community have either helped each other move cross country, have been there through health diagnosis, have been there through divorces and other issues. And so I think when you find a community that again operates on multiple levels, it's not just helping you with your business, it's not just helping you with information stuff, but then it's also people who actually care about you and who are kind of doing life with you, that causes you to stick around and causes you to want to be a part of it and cause you want to give and help other people experience that as well, I think.
And it's called The Thing?
It's called The Thing, yes, because everybody's got a thing that they're working on.
Excellent. Well, please send me the link or put it in private chat so I can also put these recommendations in the recap. David, do you have a community you're part of that you?
Yeah, I was thinking about your question, Deb, and do I want to talk about a community that I'm part of now or a community that I may have been part of in the past? Because I've been in and out of communities my whole life. One that I'm part of now is the SPI community that was started by Pat Flynn. I'm going to say maybe 4 years ago. And it's interesting. I've been a member for maybe more than 3 years. And I've seen the pivots the community has taken in just a short amount of time that I've been part of it, in response to both the needs of the members and also kind of what's going on in the marketplace. And this is a community that serves entrepreneurs that have online businesses. So obviously it fits with something I'm doing now professionally. But the other thing that's interesting is I've connected with people that I've known elsewhere, who are now part of this community too.
And it's the Smart Passive Income community that Pat Flynn runs. I did a stint working for Social Media Examiner and did special projects for Social Media Marketing World for several years. So I am very familiar, and Pat is definitely a powerhouse. So Jessie-Sierra, recommendation?
I like to think that my communities is almost like spokes on a wheel. I have a lot of different communities that I kind of flow through from the macro to the micro. So on a micro level, I am very involved in literacy for children on a local level. Also, my Jewish community center I'm heavily involved in, also supporting immigrants and refugees that come to this country with nothing, because these are projects and subjects that are very close to my heart as being, a first generation American, and seeing it through the eyes of these newcomers. But also on a professional level, I'm part of Cherry Bomb, which is this huge food community that runs the gamut of photographers and writers and creators to women photography, focus on women. I like to balance the sort of personal passion projects with those in my greater profession. And I can't forget my dance community, the Greater Boston dance community. Even though I've been away from it for 20 years, I can pop in there and talk to an old friend anytime I want. Once you find people and remember that you don't have to stick to just one topic. That's what I love hearing, the different answers here. We all have these different groups and we phase in and out, but we never quite drop them. It's like your personality. It's all aspects of your personality. You can nurture them. You can nurture them all at the same time. And remember, you're not a one-note Nelly. You are multifaceted. So dive in and don't limit yourself to just one or two communities. Really find that thing that lights you up.
And again, when you do the things that you love, it shows, and you want to be more involved. And if you want, I go back to what David said before. If you want a leadership role, if you want to be involved, then yes, that is a community. That's a really good sign that a community is a good fit for you. And also the ones that help you be better, do better. It's all the range, right? Just like I never talk about just professional goals or just personal goals. You need them both because they balance each other. If one part of your life is good, it's going to elevate the other part, and the opposite also true. I will add, so that IRL group is what became Right On Online in its goal setting, productivity, and community. So I will put that link in the chat as well. And I do think community is so beyond. It's so many things. And Jessie-Sierra's, philanthropy, I didn't write all of the things because you do so many of the things, but being part of a philanthropic community, volunteering is community. And that is another balance to all the professional stuff that you do.
Yeah, community is not just networking.
Right. I kind of want to rename networking to what it is, which is relationship development. I mean, that's all it is. You meet people, you pretty much have a sense when you meet people that they are your people, right? And maybe sometimes it'll take a little bit to develop those relationships, but when you meet people, like when you meet a community, if you feel that kinship, then you do want to learn more and you want to be more involved in when you and the other members share that value, the drive, the whatever, then only good will come from it. I think this is a great time to gift goals. So what is something someone could do today, tonight, immediately to get better with community development, whether it's starting or being more involved? Jessie-Sierra, what goal would you like to gift?
I would say finding an organization that piques your interest and volunteer. So when you volunteer, whether it be a community center, it could be a food bank, it could be something hyper local or something national or global, you're going to meet like-minded people. And that can be in person, it could be digitally, it could be on any platform that you're able to participate in. But I find that's the easiest way to enter into a community, and from there you branch off like a tree. You'll find your people, they'll connect you to others and other organizations and other interests that really, really connect with you.
Love that. David, goal?
Visit a community where you think you can make an impact. This could be a community that you're already involved in, but maybe your participation has been sporadic. So look for something where there's an event where you can show up and participate and make an impact. If it's a new community, find something like Jessie-Sierra said, it could be something that piques your interest. Just commit to yourself to make a date to actually show up for something.
Yes, put it in the calendar, because if it's not in the calendar, does it exist?
And tell the host that you're planning to attend.
Ooh,
It'll increase the odds that you'll actually show up.
I love that. Yeah, how many people sign up for things and they're like, oh, well, no. You need to commit to the things, and so this is almost a gray area, but not really. When you schedule me time to work towards your goal, you need to treat that with as much respect as you treat a meeting with a client or a boss, right? Same thing with volunteering and your community outreach. They're networking goals. You need to commit, and show up. It's not enough just to say, oh, this looks good, I'll do it next time. No, skip that second sentence, look at something, find something you can commit to and actually commit. So thank you for that extra bit of encouragement. I approve, obviously. Mike, goal?
Yes, I would say start small. And that's something I talk about a lot, because I think it's easy to have a vision that's grand. It's easy to want to already immediately jump towards that end desired result. And it can be a frustrating place if you don't allow yourself to start small, and because you're not going to experience those things out of the gate. Usually it takes time to grow and develop. And so starting small could mean, okay, I feel overwhelmed with the amount of possibilities of places to try. Let me start small and just pick one. Just do one thing, take an action, and then build on that action. Because if we're committed, or if we're trying to commit to too many things, or we're trying to head off in too many different directions, the likelihood of us actually being successful in any one of those things is probably low, because we're spreading ourselves too thin. And then also, I think we set ourselves up for failure a lot of times, because we have this big bias. We want everything big and, out of the gate, perfect. And, again, we see that end result that we want, and we want it immediately. And so I think starting small tempers our expectation. It gives us a way in, and it allows us to grow with those opportunities and to experience those and say, okay, is this what I thought it would be? Maybe it's different, but maybe that's okay, because maybe I need to grow in a certain way that I was not expecting, and being open to that. Or, other things may happen along the way too. And so not getting ahead of yourself, but staying and starting small, I think is huge.
And I'm going to take something you said and tie it with something that David said, which is when evaluating communities, see if you want to have a leadership role. It's not something you need to do right away, but knowing that that's a community that you want to jump in with, both of your feet and whatever else comes, doesn't mean you have to do the leadership at first, but just knowing if it's a place that you believe in so much that you will want to get there, but you need to take the baby steps to get there. And Pamela Barroway has been commenting live about the importance of volunteering. So thank you, Pam, for tuning in. I think you and Jessie-Sierra, no, you're in Pennsylvania. I don't think it's that close, but it's not that far away from Jessie-Sierra, is it? So
no, not at all.
We'll have to, not at all close or not at all far.
Well, it's decent. It's a drive, but I have
decent,
connections.
But it's not.
Yeah, I have connections in Pennsylvania. Come up to the Berkshires. I got an open door policy.
Now Pam was part of my GoalChat community back when I led a Twitter chat, and in the summer of 2020, when everything went virtual, her son's bar mitzvah went virtual. So even though Pam and I had never met, again, back to these, developing community with people you never meet, I still attended her son's rite of passage, which I think is just
That is beautiful.
beyond cool. And I think, this is a great time for me to mention, I've been doing these book events for 52 Secrets. So I am starting GoalChat online in March. So I am restarting my monthly mixers, but doing it online so you can attend from anywhere in the world. I will put more info on that in the recap. You all know where to find me, thedebmethod.com. Where can everybody find you? Mike?
Yeah, so the easiest place is to go to my main website, which is mikebrennan.me, M-E, and that is really a hub that goes out to all the things that I do, whether it's the visual art, whether it's the community pieces, and helping other people show up to create my podcast, creative chats, all the things in all the places. That's the hub.
Excellent. And Jessie-Sierra, where can people learn more about you?
Oh, there's so many platforms, too many platforms. The main one would be my website, straight-to-the-hipsbaby.com, where you can find delicious recipes, tantalizing food photography, and all my current events. You can also sign up for my Substack, which I am adoring, by the way. I have a newsletter that comes out weekly called Jessie-Sierra, The Last Bite. Or you can check out my work in my cookbook, Seasons Around the Table, where we focus on home entertaining, seasonal recipes, and floral bedecked tables.
Wonderful. And I always love that you've translated your life of dance into the dancing of ingredients. So
thank you.
Amazing. David, where can people learn more about you?
smashingtheplateau.com, which is a place where you can subscribe to our weekday newsletter, which is free. You can get access to 10 years worth of podcasts. There are over 900 episodes now. Also for free. And if you want to learn about our membership community, which is a paid community, the Smashing the Plateau community for corporate refugees, you can learn about it at smashingtheplateau.com as well.
Awesome. And as I mentioned before, if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you can get the recap and links and the goals from this and the previous episodes. And you can follow me at thedebmethod.com. I'm live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific, bringing together awesome people like you all to meet each other and meet each other's communities and to dive into a conversation that, again, is at its essence, we're all here just to uplift ourselves, uplift the people in our community to make everybody's lives better, because that is the total point. What final thought would you like to leave people with, David?
Just remember, every individual has gifts, every team has gifts, every organization has gifts, and when you share your gifts, the world prospers.
So true. I love it. Mike, final thought?
Yeah, I would say take the right best next step, because clarity comes through action. And if you want to get more clear on things, you need to move. You need to do something. And I truly believe when I say that everybody's creative, and I think everyone should be leaning into that creative spirit that they have, because when you create, we all win, yourself included.
When you create, we all win. Oh, this is great stuff, people. I'm just patting myself on the back from having such an amazing panel today. You're welcome.
Good job, Deb.
Thank you for not leaving me hanging, David. I truly appreciate it. Jessie-Sierra, final thought.
Ask yourself, why not? Why not go out to that next community meeting? Why not go to that line dancing class? Why not go to that next social mixer for your employer or your passion? Don't let the fear of failure stop you from taking that next step. Just ask yourself, why not? Because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? It's really little. You might not like it, and then you don't have to go back again. But the benefits are huge. You might absolutely adore it and meet your new family, your elective family. So just go for it.
Yes, why not? And I have to tell you, I did line dancing. So I did ballroom dance in college. And then after I graduated, I couldn't find a place to go ballroom dancing without people who were like my age now, whatever. Anyway, so I started line dancing. That was one of the first communities I developed after college because I wanted to be out dancing. And it was definitely a great place to find your people. So we are all your people. We're each other's people. So definitely reach out to one or all of us. Again, if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, I will have everybody's links, everybody's LinkedIn, and more information about each and every one of us. Again, I'm at the Deb Method everywhere. And if you need a little bonus inspiration, you can grab a copy of 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting, how to stay focused, grow your network, and get more done in less time. It is a choose your own adventure of the advice you need exactly when you need it. And again, please continue to follow and tune in. Your goals, your life, your community, your choice. So go on out there and go for it because we know you can do it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.